3, 2, 1. Da, 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 da. Blue streak speeds by. Sonic the Hedgehog, too fast for the naked eye. Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic, he can really move. Sonic, he's got an attitude. Sonic, he's the fastest thing alive. Da, 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 da. Look out when he storms through. Sonic the Hedgehog, don't doubt what he can do. Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic, he can really move. Sonic, he's got an attitude. Sonic, he's the fastest thing alive. He's the fastest thing alive. He's the fastest thing alive.
So, yeah, do another one of these. Testing out the audio capabilities of my phone, making sure everything's, running A-okay, running as smooth as possible. Just wanted to make sure that that's good. As such, I'm going to be going back into the Sonic the Hedgehog realm. I just want to make sure everything's A-okay, top notch, right up there, high quality. And as such, I will be doing this, and then coming soon is my EverQuest video, and then coming soon after that is my secret project. My super secret project, the one the world is not ready for. So yeah. Sonic the Hedgehog, Heroes of Mobius. Story 5, Horda and Borda. 3 weeks had passed since Sonic and Tails had first met each other. Those 3 weeks had been spent training the little fox to be able to fight. Tails' training had been progressing as much as some people, but it was coming along nicely. Tails could fight a little now, but he wasn't physically strong. Right now, Sonic had set up an obstacle course for Tails. He had to use his flying and fighting abilities all at once in this course. Sonic gave the order to go, and Tails took off. He flew in zigzags through the hordes of trees. This was a test of his agility. Then, a wooden board with a robot painted on the front appeared in front of him. Tails stopped and kicked it, snapping it off its post. Another board with a robot painted on appeared. Tails flew towards it and smashed straight into it. The board was knocked into splinters. Ooh. Then Tails found himself flying towards some logs set up for another agility test. Tails flew under and over the logs, zigzagging his way over them as fast as he could. Unfortunately, he went a little too fast and lightly knocked his head against the log he had to fly over. Tails stopped for a moment to rub himself better and then carry on. He had flown out of the logs and now found himself flying towards more boards with robots painted on them. One even had Eggman painted on. He had a really big mustache. Tails flew into all the boards, punching them off or kicking them off their posts. He flew towards the Eggman one and kicked it twice. The board snapped in half rather than fell off its posts, as it was a lot thicker than the others. Then Tails flew towards the finished post where Sonic stood and landed. Sweat rained down from his head and he was exhausted. "So, how did I do?" wheezed Tails. "You're getting better, said Sonic happily. "Oh, it's been a while since I've done the Sonic voice." Yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog, yeah. Sonic the Hedgehog, yeah. No, that's not it. Hold on. Well, I'm Sonic the Hedgehog. No, he was like the Aaron Hansen, Sonic the Hedgehog. But my voice has just changed a lot, I guess. Getting better, said Sonic happily. You are getting better. The only mishap there was that little bump in the log. Sorry, said Tails. No need to be, said Sonic, stroking his head playfully. Anyone can make a mistake. Even I can. And we learn from these mistakes. I knew that, fibbed Tails. No, you didn't, chuckled Sonic, handing over a bottle of water to Tails. Now you take rest. You've earned it. I did that wrong. That wasn't the writer's fault. Tails unscrewed the lid and immediately began gulping his bottle of water down. Speaking of which, training was thirsty work after all. Sonic took his own bottle of water and began to drink out of it. Tails stopped drinking to get some air back into him and turned to face Sonic. "Sonic," he said, "I hope you don't mind me asking, but how did you and Eggman ever become enemies?" Sonic stopped drinking and fell silent. He sighed and began. 8 months ago, he invaded Mobotropolis, he said, and he kidnapped Sally Acorn. I rescued her and in an effort to fight back, we formed the Royal Fighter Service, 2 asterisks, a group of fighters fighting under the name of the Acorn family and for Mobius. However, he destroyed Mobotropolis, and since then we've been off fighting him, desperate to drive him out of Mobius once and for all. "Oh my gosh," gasped Tails. "That madman destroyed Mobotropolis." "Yep," said Sonic. "Mobotropolis was my home city, too, so I have nowhere to live until they rebuild it." "That's terrible. How could anyone be so vile?" asked Tails. "Well, I dunno," muttered Sonic. "I guess it's just the way some people are." Tails nodded and continued to sip his bottle of water. "Hopefully New Mobotropolis will be completed soon, and I'll have a place to live in again," Sonic said more to himself than anybody. "Do you live anywhere, Tails?" "Not outside." "Oh, not outside. Not anymore," said Tails dully. "I used to live in a small village on the outskirts of Green Hill Zone, but that Eggman guy burnt it down 2 months ago." Sonic almost did a wild spit take with his water. That baghead couldn't leave Tails alone, could he? He kidnapped his parents and burnt his whole village to the ground as well? Question mark, exclamation point. That made Sonic feel even sorrier for the young club. Tails was parentless and homeless, it turned out. He needed a place to live, as the forest wasn't always a safe place. Not with Eggman around, at least. "Well, Tails, hopefully I'll be able to find you a new home in New Mobotropolis once it's completed," said Sonic. "Heck, I'll share my home with you if you like." "That sounds great," said Tails. "You're my one and only friend, after all." Sonic nodded. It felt great to be helping those in need of help. That's what he was born to do, help others at any lengths necessary, even if it meant doing all he could to stop the deadliest of bad guys. Then suddenly, he felt something vibrate against his wrist. Sonic had taken a small communication device and kept it in his glove in case he needed it, and now it had gone off. Sonic pulled the device out of his glove and answered it. "Yo, Nicole, what's up?" asked Sonic. I don't remember Nicole's voice, so I'm just going to give her a semi-female voice. "We have a distress signal from the Mobian Police Department in Central City," Nicole's voice announced on the other side of the communicator. "2 robots are attacking the place. He requested to come for help immediately." "No problems, Nicole," said Sonic. "I'll be there immediately." He shut off the communicator and put it back in his glove. "What's the matter, Sonic?" asked Tails with interest. "I'm requested to go to Central City to stop an attack going on at the Mobian Police Department," explained Sonic. "You can come too if you want." "Boy, do I ever!" cried Tails excitedly. "I can test my new skills on those attackers." "I'd keep it steady if I were you," warned Sonic. "You're still in need of training after all. Now let's go." He revved up and zipped off. Tails spun his tail around, took flight, and followed Sonic closely. Sonic looked over his shoulder, rather surprised to see the young fox actually keeping up with him. Sonic ran straight out of Green Hill Zone and headed to Mobotropolis. Once there, he had to make a sharp turn left and run a good distance before reaching Central City. Central City wasn't very far from Mobotropolis, luckily, so Sonic knew where he was going. He just wondered what Eggman was up to this time. ... After a good long hour of running, Sonic and Tails finally reached Central City. Central City was the largest city on Mobius, and chock-a-block with inhabitants and strange-looking hover cars of many shapes and sizes that whizzed here and there. Tails stared in absolute awe at everything he saw. After all, he was a techno-geek, and all the technology he saw looked amazing to him, especially the hover cars. "Impressive, isn't it?" said Sonic, noticing Tails' impressed face. "It's incredible!" exclaimed Tails. "I've never seen a city like this before." "Well, it is the largest city on Mobius, so it's bound to be impressive," noted Sonic. "Now, what is that MPD station?" Each city on Mobius had one MPD station. The Mobian Police Department was the name of the police forces on Mobius, and the MPD stations acted as headquarters. They also contained classified information on all the cities and other places on Mobius, so if Eggman was after that, it couldn't be good. After walking through a few blocks, Sonic finally came across the MPD station. It was a fairly large rectangular cuboid shape with a uniquely shaped roof and a logo consisting of a blue circle with MPD in white capital letters. This was the MPD station and presumably where the distress signal was from. "Now let's show those attackers what happens when they mess with Mobians," said Sonic smugly. He walked through the doors with Tails following him. The first thing they saw were police officers laying on the floor, out cold. Some of them had nasty burn marks on their faces. This concerned Sonic a little. Just a little. The attackers obviously meant business, and they obviously had fire powers. It must be Eggman's work. Semicolon. The attackers must be Eggman robots. Sonic stepped over the sleeping police officers and crept up to a door. "Yeah, they're totally sleeping, Sonic." "Wait here, Tails," whispered Sonic as he opened the door. Oh, so it's like it was... "Wait here, Tails. Wait here, Tails." Oh, this is a fun paragraph. He crept inside and closed the door behind him. Tails stood where he was, waiting for Sonic to come out and give him the news, but a sensitive fox ears heard voices coming from another room. Tails looked over his shoulder and spotted another door. He flew quietly over to the door and listened to it. He heard the voices on the other side. Even though he was told to wait where he was, Tails had to see what was going on in that room while Sonic was in the other room. Tails twisted the door handle slowly. The door clicked and he pushed it open very slowly. The room he was looking in was full of computers. However, it didn't look very tidy as a lot of the computer monitors and keyboards were overturned, knocked off their desks, or smashed. It was clear the attackers had violent intentions of some sort. Tails closed the door behind him and tiptoed slowly over the mess. He tried to make sure he didn't tread on anything so he wouldn't make a noise and get found out. The voices he heard earlier were getting louder. Then Tails spotted a bright light coming from around the corner. He headed towards it. Then suddenly Tails tripped over a low-hanging wire and fell on his face. Did that wrong. Tails groaned and got to his feet. Nothing stirred, so it was obvious he hadn't alerted anyone. Tails continued tiptoeing and almost trod on a computer mouse. He felt his foot press against the mouse as he lifted it up. He put his foot back down again, away from the mouse, and continued creeping forward. Tails eventually came to the corner and knelt down on his knees. He poked his head around the corner and saw two robots tapping keys on a keyboard and staring at a huge computer monitor. One robot was tall and the other was short. The tall robot was hunched backwards. Hunchback. Oh, the tall robot had a hunchback. Its head had spikes going down to its neck. A V-shaped structure was perched above its black visor with red reptilian eyes. It had spikes pointing forward on the side of its face and a spike pointing backwards on each of its shoulders. It was rather broad. It had 2 sharp talons on its feet and 5 sharp claws on each hand. It was red and black in color, and its head spikes were silver-colored. The short robot looked less scary. It had a spike starting from above its visor and pointing behind it. Its reptilian eyes were blue instead of red. It had mandible-like structures on its face. It had pointed shoulders, a chest plate with spikes that pointed sideways. Its feet were pointed, and it had 3 fingers instead of 5. The small robot was working on the computer, whereas the tall one kept looking over his shoulder or all around as if it were keeping watch. The small robot appeared to be worried. I don't like this, it gibbered to itself. We're gonna be in trouble. Quit jabbering, hurry up, Borda, snarled the tall robot, its voice electronic and gravelly sounding. I can't shake the feeling we're being watched. Tails watched the robots with interest. Not even that sick, it's just so funny. Such perfect comedic timing. What on Mobius were they up to? And were they Eggman robots? They must be. Tails didn't know anyone else who could build a robot. Oof. The tall robot walked off to check someone where's the short one, known as Borda, continued to work on the computer. He pressed the key and the computer droned. "Download commencing!" Borda stopped worrying and lightened up, knowing his job was getting underway. Tails crawled up to Borda as silently as he could. Then he lifted his head up and took a sneak peek at what Borda was doing. Borda appeared to be downloading something. Tails squinted at the screen closely. It said, "Downloading of secret files commencing." Those files contained vital information on city populations and police data. Who knew what those two robots wanted those files for? Then suddenly, Borda noticed Tails next to him and tried to shriek, but Tails seized the robot and yanked him under the desk. He grabbed a nearby snapped wire and wrapped it around Borda. Then he kicked the tied-up robot away from him and started tapping keys on the keyboard. He was trying to stop downloading files before it was too late. As for poor Borda, he had skidded across the floor and hit the tall robot, whose name was Horda, in the back of the feet. Horda felt him and turned around. He almost did a wild double take at what he saw. Dude, I want to do a wild double take. "Borda!" he blurted, picking his tied-up sidekick up. "What happened to you?" "A Mobian," squealed Borda. "There's a Mobian here." Horda looked up and saw Tails typing furiously on the keyboard. "Whoa, a Mobian!" sneered Horda, creeping up towards Tails. "I was expecting a bigger one, though." Tails jumped in fright and turned around to see Horda towering over him. Horda truly looked terrifying, but Tails put on his bravest-looking face to hide it. "I know what you guys are up to," he said slowly, "but I won't let you get away with but I won't let you get away with it." Horda laughed a mechanical, throaty laugh, and then threw Borda directly at the little fox. Tails caught him and threw him back at Horda. Horda just slapped Borda away, the poor robot hitting the floor head first and groaning. Tails laughed. Oh my gosh, my reading is terrible today. "Is that any way you treat your buddy?" he taunted. "I'll teach you to make fun of me," growled Horda. Horda seized Tails by the neck and slammed him against a very wide computer tower. Tails struggled in his grasp, but Horda was too strong. He pulled Tails away from the tower and slammed him against it again. That slam caused a little damage to the tower. "I will not tolerate your interfering with our mission," snarled Horda. "You will burn like those officers have. Oh my gosh. Voice, do good voice. He pulled out a strange-looking object and pressed the button. A huge flame emitted from it. Tails gasped in horror as Horda held the flaming metal torch to his face. Tails squirmed desperately as Horda inched it closer and closer. Then suddenly an ice gun descended from the ceiling and pointed directly behind Horda's back. The computer room had ice guns to put out electrical fires for water. Couldn't put those kinds of fires out, and having a sprinkler system would likely short-circuit everything in the room if they had systems like that in a computer room. That's the greatest sentence of my entire life. The rest of the headquarters had sprinklers if there was a fire anywhere else. "Look out, Horda!" screamed Borda as he snapped himself free from the wire he was tied up with. "Huh?" said Horda, turning around. He spotted the ice gun and leapt out of the way. The ice gun squirted poor Tails with a jet of ice and water. The ice guns were used for putting out small electrical fires in case one happened. No way. They were programmed to come out whenever a fire was detected, and Horda's mechanical fire torch had set him off. Tails squealed a high-pitched squeal as he was jetted with freezing cold ice and water. "Oh!" He was so shocked by the cold that when it finally stopped, he fell to the floor, shivering as if he was in the middle of the Arctic. "Cold, cold," shivered Tails. "So cold." As for Horda and Borda, their download had finished and they scooped up their memory stick. They were walking away from the monitor. "What about the Mobian?" asked Borda. "Ah," snorted Horda. "We got what we came for, and that's all that matters. I'm happy to leave him on ice." They walked over the emergency exit and opened it. Then they left the building, laughing like a pair of hyenas. Tails just sat where he was, shivering furiously. He was so cold that it was all he could think of, being cold. Then Sonic burst into the room, looking around. He took note of the smashed computers and keyboards and ran up to where Tails was. The poor fox was still shivering. "Tails, there you are," gasped Sonic. "What happened?" Two robots named Horda and Borda who were working on a computer," shivered Tails. "I tried to stop them, but they overpowered me and I got blasted by an ice goo gun." "That sounds like Eggman to me," said Sonic. Then he turned back to Tails. Then he turned back to Tails. "And don't you dare wander off when I tell you to wait," he scolded. "What if those robots killed you?" "I'm sorry, Sonic," said Tails sadly. "I only wanted to see what they were up to and if I could stop them." "Well, next time, listen to Sonic," said Sonic sternly. "I'm really concerned about your safety, Tails. I don't know what I'd do if I lost you. Best bud." "Sorry," said Tails again. "That's all right," said Sonic softly. "By the way, what were those robots doing on the computer? I assume they weren't playing solitaire." "They were downloading the secret files," explained Tails. "I managed to tamper with it and make them to download an empty file instead. I bet they'll be back once they find that out." "In that case, we wait for them," said Sonic, "and we'll be ready for them." Tails beamed. He couldn't wait for the chance to redeem himself and to catch those two robots once and for all. Meanwhile, Horda and Borda had retreated to a small spaceship they had hidden in an alleyway. Their ship was no bigger than a lorry and was rather sleek and pointed in design. It had a cloaking device so no one would be able to see it. Inside the ship, Horda and Borda had set up a computer and they plugged their memory stick into it. They were eagerly waiting to see what information they had downloaded. "I hope there's information on which cities have the highest population, so we can kill lots of disgusting Mobians," hoped Horda. "And I hope there's information on some large cities so we know which ones to target when we do our daily collateral damage patrol." "Our Master Borda will be very pleased," beamed Borda as he uploaded the information on the computer. The upload had finished and a small screen was displayed on the monitor. Horda clicked on the file icon to see what it was. However, there wasn't a single bit of information displayed on the screen after clicking on the file icon. Not even a word. Not one word. Horda stared hard at their computer. "What's this?" he bellowed. "This file is empty." "What?" shrieked Borda. "I could swear I found the secret files." "You idiot!" snarled Horda. "You idiot!" I love that voice. "You idiot!" snarled Horda, slapping Borda across the head. "You downloaded the wrong file. Now we have to go back and try again." "But what if there's a group of Mobians guarding the place?" piped Borda. "They can send as many as they dare," sneered Horda. "We'll just destroy them all. Now come on, you bumbling bolt brain." Horda lowered the bouldering Horda lowered the boarding ramp of the ship and exited it. Borda followed closely behind. Sonic and Tails were still at the MPD station waiting for Horda and Borda to return for the real secret files. "Will we beat them, Sonic?" asked Tails nervously. "Sure we will," said Sonic. "No villain's a match for me or you, 'cause we're Tails and Sonic." Then suddenly the emergency exit door was ripped off its hinges and tossed away. Man, these guys are coming to play! Horda and Borda had returned to get the secret files. Horda had even brought the memory disk with him. Sonic and Tails hid behind a computer desk and waited for Horda and Borda to start working on the computer. Horda stomped over to the same computer he had been working on before and turned it on. He looked around to make sure no one was around. "Borda, you get to work now!" ordered Horda. "I'll keep watch!" Borda gulped. He hated doing dirty work, as he always worried on getting caught. But he was made to follow orders, so he did so. The computer finished turning off. What the freaking... My brain is getting destroyed. What the... Oh. You know what? I'm so lost. I'm just going to start where I think I need to start. But he was made to follow orders, so he did so. The computer finished turning on and displayed its screens. Borda immediately got to work, taping the keyboard keys, typing the keyboard keys and searching for the right information he and Horda required. Horda just whipped out his 2 fire torches, ready to activate them the moment he spotted an intruder. Then, without warning, Sonic leapt from his hiding place and spin-dashed Horda in the back. Horda yelped in surprise as he was flung into the wall by Sonic's spin dash. Borda immediately got scared and saw what was happening. Sonic ran up to Borda and grabbed him.
Alright, why do you 2 miscreants want the secret files?
Demanded Sonic angrily. It's our job, gibbered Borda. We want to launch an attack on this planet's largest cities for our master. Please don't hurt us. Sonic thought of what Borda had said. Launch an attack on Mobius's largest cities. That sounded exactly like an Eggman plan. But why were these robots so different looking to the usual Eggman robots he was used to? Then suddenly, Horda lunged from behind and punched Sonic away from Borda. The startled Hedgehog crashed into a desk.
We do not wish to battle, snarled Horda, but if you want one, we will be happy to oblige.
Leave Sonic alone, cried Tails hotly. He flew up to Horda from behind and kicked him in the back of the neck. Horda gasped and fell over. Sonic got to his feet and glared at Horda.
Well, I bet this is Eggman's doing, isn't it? He asked. You're doing this for Eggman, aren't you?
Horda just gave Sonic a confused stare.
Who in the mechanical world is an Eggman?
Asked Horda bluntly. Don't play games with me, Metal Face, snapped Sonic.
You're working for Eggman and downloading those files for him. I know it. What in the mechanical mind are you talking about?
Growled Horda, whose voice is slowly being lost due to this accent.
We do not know who this Eggman is, nor are we affiliated with him. We're not even supposed to be from this planet.
Say what? Spluttered Sonic, who was so confused that he's talked in a 17-year-old teenager's voice. Horda and Borda weren't Eggman robots? Nor were they from Mobius? These foes were mysterious indeed. Horda suddenly leapt to his feet and slashed at Sonic. Sonic jumped out of the way and kicked Horda across the face. Then suddenly Borda sneaked up from behind and punched Sonic in the back. Then Borda pulled out a pair of saw blades he had as weapons. He activated them and raised them above his head. But before he could chop Sonic into ribbons, Tails kicked him from behind. Borda dropped his saw blades. Tails grabbed one and turned it into Borda's back with it. Borda grabbed Tails by the tails and hurled him into a wall. Tails smacked headfirst into it and slid down to the floor. Sonic then spin-dashed into Horda's face and sent him toppling over. Sonic then Oops, I repeated the line. Sonic then spotted Horda on Borda's memory stick lying next to the computer. He grabbed it, threw it on the floor, and stomped it on it, breaking it into pieces.
No!
Yelled Horda, who was even more losing his voice than normal.
Now you can't download anything for your mysterious master, smirked Sonic.
Horda got very, very cross. He leapt to his feet and whipped out his flame torches. He activated them. The flames roared loudly.
You shall pay for your interference, you miserable organism, he declared angrily. And you shall pay for that by becoming my next barbecued victims.
Horda, said Sonic. Don't you know what happens if you play with fire in here? Horda ignored him and advanced on Sonic. Then suddenly 3 ice guns descended from the ceiling and pointed directly at him. Horda turned around and stared at them in horror.
Oh, bugger!
He whispered.
Oh, bugger!
He whimpered. The ice guns blasted him in the face. 1 ice gun was bad enough, but 3 at once were even worse. In fact, the 3 ice guns began to freeze Horda because the icy water they squirted was so cold. Another ice gun appeared from nowhere and joined in with the freezing process. Like a friend who just realized he wasn't invited to a party, so he angrily stormed over there. I added that part in. I thought it'd be pretty funny. Never mind. Borda noticed his friend was in trouble and ran over to help him. Then Tails flew up to one of the ice guns and turned it into Borda's direction. Now Borda was blasted in the face by icy water. Water and electricity didn't mix after all, and Borda began to short-circuit. He ended up having a mechanical seizure and started jittering about like a jitterbug. Then Borda's chest plate popped off and he fainted. Tails clenched his fist and mouthed, "Yes!" in triumph. As for Horda, the ice guns had finished squirting him. He was frozen solid. He couldn't do anything except stand there, defeated and disgraced. Sonic smirked at him and so did Tails. Now who's having the Now who's having the cold shoulder? Jeered Tails. Horda glared at the little fox.
You two have disgraced us, he snarled. You'll pay dearly for this. But for now, we shall leave so we can repair ourselves. We will return in the next Marvel feature.
And with that, he broke off one of his arms free from the ice. He freed his other arm and pressed the teleporter device on his wrist. He and Borda vanished into the air. Sonic merely huffed.
Well, that's that, I guess,
said Sonic. Yeah, I guess, added Tails. I wonder if we'll see those two again.
They said they'll return, so we'll just have to be ready for them, said Sonic. I just wonder who their master is and what they want to destroy cities for.
Tails merely shrugged.
By the way, Tails, said Sonic, you redeemed yourself back there. Well done, bro.
He gave him a playful smack on the back. Thanks, Sonic, said Tails modestly. And I learnt my lesson. Never do anything by yourself, unless you have the right skills for it. Sonic gave him the thumbs up and winked at him. Then suddenly, Sonic felt a vibration against his wrist again. He pulled his communication device out of his glove and answered it.
Yo, Nicole, what's up this time?
Asked Sonic.
Have you dealt with the problem in Central City yet?
Asked Nicole.
Yes, said Sonic. The MPD is safe and sound now, thanks to Sonic the Hedgehog. That's good, but Bunny Rabbit and the Royal Fighter need your help in Megapolis, announced Nicole. They're in serious trouble.
I'll be there right away, said Sonic, his voice becoming eerily deep, turning the device off.
Man, this day just gets better and better, doesn't it?
Can I come? Asked Tails hopefully.
Why not? Said Sonic. I'm sure Bunny would love to meet you.
And following that, he dashed straight out of the MPD station with Tails following him. Sonic had no idea what he was going to expect in Megapolis, but he couldn't wait to smash Eggman's latest scheme. And that's the end of that little arc, the Horda and Borda arc. It wasn't as long or intense as any of the other arcs I've covered previously. I mean, I tried to do the Tales of Mobius thing. That was, oh my gosh, I didn't even know how to categorize that. That was fun. But, you know, I'm just going to do the Tales of Mobius once I'm all done with this. And this was a pretty great test of my camera's microphone. I mean, of course, I'll polish it up in the editing room a bit, remove all the white noise in the background, create the good noise. I'll create the good noise. But until then, this has been my microphone test, and I hope you'll come in a couple of weeks when I post my EverQuest video, because just the other day, EverQuest turned 20 years old. It's really interesting. I really think you should check it out. All one person, whoever sees this, unless I become super famous in the future. But anyway, bye!